This year is being given in a place called Belmonte, Portugal.
Or a convent.
Is that what this was?
This was a convent.
Harold tells me this was an old convent. There's a community of Jews who live here who they say are crypto Jews for like 500 years. Anyways, we'll learn more about them tomorrow. But anyways, we're doing the Daf Kesubos Gimel 13. Yeah, that's like a battery, right?
Yeah.
How long does this give you power for?
A couple hours.
Yes.
Yeah.
Good Gimel. Mishnah. We're still in this sugya of dispute between the husband and wife and who's believed. He omer smuka seitzavi. The husband finds after they get married that she's not a basula. And then she admits, yeah, but I got it riding a bicycle. I didn't have physical relationships with a man. Vuhu omer loki. Yeah. Please. Vuhu omer loki. Eladrusa seishad. No, you lived with a man. So Rabbi Lever he nemenes betanoso. She's a vadai. He doesn't know for sure. So that we learned this yesterday. That's why we believe it. We say it's much more common for a woman to not be a basula because she had relations than she had some kind of accident.
Right.
So she has to bring proof. We assume that she became a non-virgin through the traditional way until she brings evidence to the contrary. We don't just rely on her testimony. And what is the claim? What is the monetary claim between the two? What do they claim? There is going to, remember, we learned there is a shita that as long as you didn't live with the man, it means normally we give 200 for a psula and 100 for a bu'ula. But there is a shita that says you get 200 even if you're a mukaseitz. So Rav Yochanan says that the debate between them, the woman wants 200. Right. So she has a din like a basula. And Chachamim, the opposite, Rabbi Yoshua says, no, she's a bu'ula, and therefore I don't have to pay you 100. Now, that's where Rav Yochanan lives. Rabbi Lazar Amar b'mona v'lo klum. She's saying, okay, I know I'm not going to get 200, but at least I get 100.
Something.
Like any bu'ula. Because I know I'm not a bu'ula. And that she didn't trick him. But he claims it's a mekach tos. I wanted to marry a basula. You're not a basula, so you don't deserve anything. Rav Yochanan, Rav Meir. Rav Meir was of the opinion, Shomer Bein Hikerba, whether the Baal knew that she was a mukaseitz or whether he didn't know she was a mukaseitz, still Mosayim. That's why Rav Yochanan says the debate between them is Mosayim versus Mona. So that we understand. Rabbi Lezer, that the machlokes is only 100 versus 0, sort of like Rabbanon. The Amri mukaseitz bein hikirba bein lo hikirba. According to the Rabbanon, we don't care whether the guy knew she was a mukaseitz, not a mukaseitz. She gets also 100. So that's one opinion. And versus mekach tos, where she doesn't get anything. So Bishop Rabbi Lezer like Rav Yochanan. I understand Rabbi Lezer doesn't hold like Rabbi Yochanan, the Kamoik like Rabbanon, because we just explained. He explains the Mishnah according to the sheet of Chachamim, not according to Rav Meir. Rav Yochanan, my time, why didn't Rav Yochanan learn like Rabbi Lezer? Ksover, because he holds concept of Cheskas Psula of Nimtzas Be'ula, still Yeshel Kesubos Daf. That if he thought that he was living with her as a basula, and she's a bu'ula, she still gets 100.
Right.
Therefore, Hacham Rav Kol. So this is what we're on Yud Gimel Amid Aleph. Ksavar.
It's okay.
So Hacha Hudakam. Mana, the debate is either she gets 100. The Hikam Shmagira Mana, because she's a Mukas 8. We all agree, according to that Shita, that if she lost her virginity through an accident, like a bicycle, she's a Mukas 8, she still gets 100. So that comes out, Ma'ika Ben Tana Dide Latana Dide. Then they're both saying 100. She's saying 100, he's saying 100. There's no dispute. So Bishlam Rabbi Lazar, that who says that the debate between them is 100 because at a minimum she gets 100 because she's not a basula, and the other side says she gets nothing because he was expecting a basula. It's like going into a jewelry store, buying a diamond and getting a zirconia. It's a mekachtos and you get it reversed. That's why there are two different machloiksim, one 200 and 100. The other one 100 versus nothing. Rabbi Bar Chama was one who said that if you have mukas eitz, that the guy didn't know about it, he was expecting her to be a basur, and she's a mukas eitz. According to Rabbi Bar Chama, she doesn't get anything because it's a mekachtos, like trying to buy the right diamond. It wasn't the right diamond.
So she definitely knows that she isn't.
She's now making the claim that she's a mukas eitz. She knows. She's saying I'm not.
Knew.
She's saying I'm not a basula, but I wasn't. A man didn't live with me. So it's different because with a man living, there is no shita that says she would get 200. There is a shita that if you're mukas, you get 200. So that's why the first case in the Mishnah was the claim between the husband and the wife is she wants 200. He only wants to give her 100. That'll only work by mukas.
Or nothing if he can get away with it.
If it's bu'ula by another man, so nobody holds that you get 200 for that. You get 100. But if there is a shita that says if she damaged her virginity through an accident, she still gets 200 because no man lived with her. So Chadu Lafuke Rami Bar Chama. And the other one is Chadu Lafuke Rav Chia Barav and Rav Sheshes, who says if the man was expecting a basula and he found that she was a ba'ula, she still gets 100. So that's why he had to learn both sheets. El Rav Yochanan Tarti Lamali. According to Rav Yochanan, what do you need the two cases for? So Chada Loidicha Kochad Rav Galiel, V'Chada Loidicha Kochad Rav Yeshua. They want to show the extremes of how Rabbi Gamliel and Rabbi Yeshua argue. The first case, in the previous Mishnah, we learned that the husband comes to Bezdin with the claim that she was not a basula. And she says, you're right, I'm not a basula. I was raped after Kiddushin. There used to be 6 months separating time between Kiddushin and Nisuin. So she has a claim of what's called Nistach V'Sadeyu. You have bad mazel. You had a field. It got rained out. Same thing. A woman, except if she's married to a Kohen, a woman who's raped is still permitted to live with her husband. So she's claiming that she's not a basula because she was raped. It's not her fault. So that was the previous Mishnah's case, when she admitted that she was raped. So that Mishnah was taught Loidicha Koichad Rabbi Yeshua to show you how far Rabbi Yeshua is machmer against her. The Afagav the Ikle Meimer Migu. There's a migo that could be, if she's going to tell a lie, she could tell a better lie. She could say I was a mukas. Why say that I was raped? It ruins her reputation more. Let her say she's. And even so, even though there is a migu lo mehemna, Rabbi Yeshua doesn't believe her. We say that we assume that she's a bu'ula by another man unless she brings proof that she has to bring a medical documentation from her doctor that he did a speculative examination. That's why she lost her virginity. Means we don't rely on her testimony to say I'm a mukaseitz. She needs Rabbi. That's how Rabbi Yeshua. So, and even in the case when she claimed not that I'm a mukaseitz, but that I was raped, where yesterday we learned that that's a very strong miku, that to believe her, because if she's going to lie already, she can tell a better lie. Not that I was raped. but rather I fell off a bike.
Why is it less embarrassing to her?
Yeah, exactly. So that Migu gives us a reason to believe her. Even so, Rabbi Yeshua doesn't believe her. Basraisa, this last mission that we learned, shows us how far Rabbi Gamliel goes in believing her. The Afagav the Leklamim Migu. Here there is no Migu. Here in this case, the husband brought her to Bezdin the next morning and said she's not a Basula. And she says, yes, I'm not a Basula, I'm a Mukaseitz. There is no Migu. That's the best. That's the best story. And even so, Rabbi Yeshua believes her. Even so, Rabbi Gamliel believes her. So the reason to have the previous mission, this mission, to show you the extremes of how much Rabbi Gamliel believes her and how much Rabbi Yeshua doesn't believe her. Mission. You have a single girl. Somebody, we'll see what the Gemara means by midaberes, but right now, they saw her talking with a man. We'll see it means more than talking.
Oh.
And we don't know who the man is. And we're going to see, she is going to get pregnant after a bit of time.
Talking?
They asked her, who is this man? And the woman says, Ish ploiniv a kohen. The woman says, yeah, he's a kohen.
You know his name?
So Rabbi Gamliel, Rabbi Lezer, Nemenes. We believe her. Therefore, she's protecting the yichus of her progeny. If it's a male, it'll be a kohen. If it's a daughter, she can marry a kohen. Okay. Rabbi Yeshua.
We're not worried about embarrassing the Cohen. Who may have done this?
Well, we don't know who that is.
Right.
We don't know who the man
Does
is.
she know?
So she's claiming that she knows,
Yeah.
and it's a kohen. She's trying to protect the yichus of her children.
Because of the Cohen.
The kohen is gone. The kohen is not relevant here. We're going through these claims of the woman makes a statement and the man makes a statement. So the man here, so here in this case, there's no husband yet. She's a single girl who is seen. We'll see in a minute what medaberes means, but let's say it means go in a room alone with another man. And they ask her, who was that man? They say he was a kohen. And then she becomes pregnant. So it's going to define what the yichus of her child is. It's immaterial who the guy is. The question is, do we believe her? Rabbi Yeshua lomi pianu chad el rezu becheskas be'ula nesin mamzer. There are many mamzerim and goyim like around out there.
But she's single, so it couldn't be a mom.
Why not? She's single.
Uh-huh.
So a goy that lives with a pnuya,
Goy.
so it could create mamzeris.
Yeah.
Okay. According to the Shita, that a goy who lives with a panui creates mamzeris. We don't hold that. That's not going to see. This mission is according to the Shita that does create mamzeris. So or the guy who lived with her was a mamzer.
No,
You have to assume the worst, says Rabbi Yeshua. What you're assuming the bet? Believe she's claiming it's a kohen, and we believe her. Rabbi Gabriel says, yeah, we believe her. Rabbi Yeshua says we don't believe her. She has to bring evidence who it was. Until then, we have to assume the worst.
And does she demand this information from the guy she's checking up with?
She's claiming that she knows that he's a kohen. Okay, we don't have any further. It's just a claim in court. So, but Rabbi Gamliel all along, when Rabbi Gamliel says that she claims she's a mukaseitz, so Rabbi Gamliel, we just learned the mission. We believe her. Rabbi Shua doesn't believe her. She says b'cheskas pula. Okay, so here as well, they have the same machlokas. Hi, Johnny.
How's it going?
Look.
Will's there.
We're in a place called Belmonte, Portugal. It's a whole story about what's going on here. But anyways, it's a beautiful site. Okay.
Very nice.
Haisamu Beres, another case, separate case. She's pregnant. We ask her, who is the father? And she says, Meish Ploin of a kohen. It's a kohen. So the child's a kohen. We believe her. We don't listen to her. We assume the worst, that it's a mamzer that's going to be the outcome. Until she brings us proof who the father really was. The Gemara will tell us, why did I need both of these cases? So first the Gemara explains, what do you mean midaperes? My midaperes. Zeiri Amr Nistura. That she sequestered herself in a room alone. We don't know what happened in that room. There's no edus that she lived with the man. Just Nistura. And even though we didn't see that she had relations in there, Rabbi Yoshua says that, or forget about her being pregnant. The girl goes into a room alone and someone lives with her. Now, the din is, if a mamzer, if somebody who's puzzled, like if a girl sleeps with a goy, she becomes a halachic zona. It's a category. And therefore, she would be puzzled a kohen. So the argument in the first part of the Mishnah was, who did she sleep with? According to her, she said, I slept with somebody who's kosher to me, and therefore I still remain kosher to marry a kohen. And according to Rabbi Yeshua, no. A goy lived with you or a mamzer lived with you, which puzzles you now from being married to a kohen. You're a pnuya now, but you want to get married later on, we're not going to be able to give you chuppah v'kiddushin to a kohen. The second case is a muberes, where we're dealing with what is the yichus of the child, because we're dealing with them. So when we talked about the first case, my midaberes, ze'irium ministra, we don't have any evidence that someone slept with her. And look at what Rabbi Yeshua is saying. She is usher to marry a kohen. We're talking about if she was in a room alone for, let's say, 20 minutes, like by weddings, and you have Eda Yichud standing outside of a room where Bia could technically take place. Even if it doesn't take place, it's considered royal. Okay. So Rabbi Yeshua says, we don't have any Eden that she even have relations in that room. He's already puzzling her to ever marry a Kohen. Rabbi Gamliel and Rabbi Gamliel, Rabbi Ezra says, no, she can marry a Kohen because she said that the man that she was in the room there was with a Kohen. Ravasi Omer Nivel. Ravasi says there were Edim that saw her have relations with the man, but they didn't see who the man was. So that's why they're asking her, who is this guy? Now, Bishmal is the Iri Hainu Diktoni Medaberes. Now, I understand the use of the Mishnah's language, Medaberes, which is this funny, sort of clean language, because we don't know what, maybe nothing happened in there. All they did was sequester themselves. El Ravasi, my Medaberes. I mean, if there were 8 that saw them have relations in that room, why are you using the word Medaberes? The Gemara says, Lishna Ma'al. It's an example where the Tanoim used clean language. Kidechliv, Achla u'machso pia, v'armelo pa'alti oven. It's a pasuk in Mishlei, which refers to the act of cohabitation, but it uses the word achla. So similar here, Medaberes, or v'amra, right, is referenced to the act of be'ila. Now, Bishmal is the Iri Hana Diktani Tarti. If the Iri is holding Nistara only, I understand why I needed both cases. Medaberes u'meuberes. One is she goes into a room alone only. And we don't, and even so, Rabbi Yeshua is machmir. And of course, Mu'beres, we would understand the addition to that. El Ravasi, who says it refers to evidence that she had relations, then why do I need both cases? Tartilam. Like we explained. One is the case that she is allowed to marry a Kohen because she was not, we believe that if somebody did sleep with her, it was somebody kosher. And the other case is about her child. So, according to the Sforah, that says it works the same way. If you're machshir her, it's the same Sforah as being machshir the daughter, fine. there are opinions that say, yeah, we might believe her regarding herself, but we would puzzle regarding the daughter. We might be more stringent regarding the daughter. Because, listen, you can't get pregnant by having coffee with somebody. So there's more reason to suspect her. According to that Mandomar says, either we would machshir her, we would puzzle the daughter. So Ravasi said, because Ravasi holds, no, we believe her for herself, we believe her for her daughter. According to Zairi, you explained that what does it mean medaberes? It means not that they were aiding that they had relations, but that they went into a room alone. And even so, we still asked her to marry a kohen. Well, what about Amar Rav? Malkin ala yichud ve'inoisra ala yichud. Chachamim used to give malchus to single girls who went into a room alone with somebody to do yichud. But we didn't asr her. And yet Rabbi Yeshua is coming to asr her and say that she is not going to be able to marry a kohen. Is that statement of Rav Lehman to look Rabbi Yeshua? What is the field of Rabbi Yeshua? Malu asu b'yosem. There's a special to be matir a woman to marry a kohen. We go beyond mishura sadin. We're more machmir, even though that meikar adin we might allow it, but there's a special stringency made by permitting a woman to a kohen that is different.
Did she need to be warned about this?
Well, we're not punishing her. Malchus here is not Malchus midaraisa; it's Malchus midrabanan. Like if some, people can be Makadish Nisha with Kesser Star and Bia. If a man tried to be Makadish a woman with Bia, they gave him Malchus. It's not Malchus, it's Malchus Mardus. It's rabbinic lashes in order to legislate their, what they didn't want people to do. It's like a kanas. So you're right. When it comes to Malchus Daraisa, you'd have to give warning. But here, she didn't do anything with Daraisa that we have a din of yichud, but you don't get Malchus from Yachid. This Malchus that they gave was rabbinic Malchus. Meisrei. Isar go into a room alone. To a room, or a churba. A churba is like a ruin. Now, a ruin is usually far away from the city. And it was known that was an assignation point, that men and women would meet in a churba for one purpose. Rashi says, Stama lebe'ilo, shumokam leznus. It's a quiet, it's a ruin, nobody goes there. So we assume that there's nus there. And they asked her, who is this man? And she says, Kohen, or Ben Achi Abahu, it was my nephew. You're allowed to live.
It's a cousin.
Yeah, it's a cousin. Meaning, it keeps her kosher to marry a kohen. Problem is, if let's say a goy is out there, Amzer's out there, lives there, makes razona, who cannot marry a kohen anymore. So Rabbi Gabriel believe her. Rabbi Yeshua lo mipianu chayim. You can't listen to her. We assume that she was nivel to somebody who's puzzled her until she brings birth. Now, Bishmal is Zairi, Hainu de Tarti. Again, Zairi said the word medaberes meant just sequestering you. That's why I needed leseser, which is a hidden place. There was less chashash that they were going to have relations there. A churba was more chashash. So in either case, you're just dealing with a chashash. So it makes sense according to Zairi. The Seiser Oloch El Ravasi, the Omar Nivala. Ravasi says the women that bears means they actually had relations. Now, why do we need both cases? It's Seiser and a churba. We know what's happened there. So, and for the Gemara, Chadek Tanu. We're not talking about two different places. L'seiser de churba means they went to a secret place in a room. Freit the Gemara. What do you mean? How can you touch that way? The l'seiser o l'churba ketani. It doesn't say l'seiser de churba. It says either or. So our answer is chad l'churba de musa. This one case was a ruin in the city. V'chad l'churba de tivra. One was a ruin like out in the desert. Utzrich. And I needed both cases. Yashmin al-churba de musa. If I'd have all been told the ruin in the city, maybe there b'hakamach Rav Gamliel. In the city, Rav Ksheri Metzla. In the city, most of the people who live there are kosher. They're not goyim, and they're usually people of the city. Most of the people in the city were kosher. There's no Nesinim running around. There's no Mamzerim running around. Rov are kosher. But out in the desert, there's Arabs, there's goyim, right? They're Rav Psul. That's like maybe Rabbi Gamliel would not believe her in that case. Would admit to Rabbi Yeshua not to believe her. Now, vice versa. Yes, maybe Rabbi Yeshua doesn't believe her when the churba is in the desert. But in the city, Rabbi Gamliel, so zu edus she'aisha ksherim. When she gives testimony, when they ask her, who is this man? And she says, it was a kosher man, it was a kohen. So a woman can give such testimony. Rabbi Yeshua says, we don't believe a woman. He said to Rav Gamliel, don't you agree to me? So when pirates would take girls captive, it was assumed that they were raped. So when they came back, they could go back to their husbands as long as they were not Kohanim. If they were Kohanim, they couldn't go back to their Kohanim because they halachically they're a halachic zona. Since she was an Eishes Ish. Someone lived with her, it makes her halachic zona. A Yisrael has no prohibition of marrying halachic zona. So a husband can take back a wife that was raped. So Rabbi Yeshua says to them, don't you admit to me that if a woman's taken prisoner, the Yeshla Eidim Shenishmas, and there were Eidim that told us that she was taken prisoner. Vihi Omeres Tahora. She says, I kept my chastity. I did not sleep with anybody. She'ena nemenes. In a case of piracy, we don't believe her. There was a rove, there was a chazaka, that the majority of captives were raped. So we're not soymich on her diva. And the chacham have to agree to that. Amr lo, aval. They said there's a difference. What's the difference? Lazu, you just told me, yesh edim. In the case of nishbis, there were edim, so we can't get away from that. But here we don't have edim. We're relying on her. We ask her, who is the man? Lazu ein la edim. Amr lahem, af lazu yesh edim. Shari kresa ben shineh. What do you mean? Just wait. A few months, she's going to be pregnant. And there's no greater edus than that she slept with the guy. Amr lo, Rav Nachman Putzim Barayoshem. So they said to him that Goyim are Hefker. They will sleep with any girl that they take prisoner. But we don't know necessarily, certainly in the case of Nistara, that they actually have relations. So here's an important halacha. Armelan ena patropis larayis. You can't. There's no chaperone. It's not a matter of chaperone. We suspect everybody the same. Every man is suspected of sleeping with a woman if given the opportunity. B'malkum shel arayis, ein anoshim ne'emanim sheyishmeru atzmam. In a case where there's an opportunity for arayis, the man's not going to hold himself back. Everybody is suspicious regarding that. So if a woman that eventually is shown to be pregnant, therefore she had Be'ila, there's no way to get around that. So then we might not believe necessarily her Edus Lakashrus. Now, what do we talk about up until now? The woman testifying about her own body. Aval Edus Isha. Was that a B?
No,
Not
Okay. Aval Edus Isha Bebita. But giving testimony about her daughter, Divra Kol of Lad Shtuki. So there, even Rav Gamliel is a Shtuki is a child who we say you have no yichus. We are meshasek him. So in a Chanami, it's a worse case regarding the daughter.
One move over by the light.
Yeah.
Yeah. Buzz.
Let's come here. It's making a very fuzzy sound.
I'm not used to this in
Hi, Johnny. We just had to move because we had a lot of bees there. Okay.
You had what? Bees?
We had bees or wasps.
Yeah, so just to make you familiar with here, that's all.
Who's that? Oh, and the credit card fee.
Back to you, kids.
The American Express.
Micah Armelahu, Micah Mahadrila.
Where is it?
You have American Express.
Oh, it's used my American.
Okay.
So what did they say to him? What did he say back? This is what they said to him. Hey, Shaftana la Muberes. Fine. You answered us good about her giving testimony about her daughter. But regarding this issue about she's alone in the room and answering herself, you didn't give us an answer. And medaberes is the same as a woman taken prisoner. You can't compare the case. By Goyim, pirates who take a prisoner, so they're paru, they're hefker. He says there's no difference even by Jewish men. If they're going to be sequestered, we have to suspect the worst. Now, Ketani Mias, whatever you want to say, Tarti, we talked about both midaberes, uberes, which is tiyufta, Ravasi, tiyufta. Ravasi wanted to say that midaberes means they had relations, but then that's the same as muberes. So by the price that we just quoted to talk about both cases, it's Zeiri is correct. The tapik lay the husam rov sulam etzla. Why don't we say by shvuya, the majority of the men are puzzled around her, they're goyim. V'hacha, in the case where we, medaberes in a room by the pnuya, rov ksherim etzla, most are Jews. So why don't we go after rov? Messiah Rabbi Shua ben Levi, Rabbi Shua ben Levi, the Divri HaMachshir, Machshir Afila B'Rov Psulin, the Mekilin, like Rabbi Gamliel, they are Machshir even when there's Rov Psulin. And the Divri HaPoisel, Poisel Afila B'Rov Ksher. It's Rabbi Yeshua. Similar to what we showed the extent when we learned on the previous plot, Loidicha Koichan, we see how far both the lenient ones and the Machmir ones go. Om Rav Yechon. The Divri HaMachshir Machshir Bevita. The one that says, based on her testimony, we say she's kosher, so her daughter is kosher as well. The Divri HaPoisel Ba, the one Rabbi Yeshua said that she's posel Bevita. That's Rabbi Yechon. From Lazar Amir, the Divri HaMachshir Ba also posel Bevita. That in each case, her testimony about himself, you can't learn about the daughter. For the swore that we learned, because once you're pregnant already, so you have to assume that the worst about the Be'il. Amar Rabbi my time, Rabbi Lazar. Why is Rabbi Lazar machmer? Bishlam ihi herself for her own yichus islay chazaka de kashrus. This pnuya, what is her status at this point in her life before any of this? She's becheskas kashrus, so we keep her that. But Bita Leslie Chazaka Kastros. But the daughter, we don't know what it is. It's a suffix. So she doesn't. The daughter doesn't have a Chazaka as a Kastros, and therefore, that's why there might be an efkamita between her and the child. That's about a woman testifying about herself. Aval edus isha bebita, testifying, she's pregnant and she has to say who did she sleep with. Divrei kol avlad shtuki. I thought you told me before that the yichus is always bad. We assume the worst. My lav shasuki upasul, and we assume normally when Chazal use the word shtuki, it means it's a psul. Lo shtuki v'kosher. In this case, we say shasuki, meaning we don't know who you are, but you're kosher. Frank the Gemara, umi ika shasuki kosher. Is there such a thing as you can be a shasuki and you're still kosher? In Kiddush Shmuel. The Omer Shmuel. Asar kohanim oimdi. You have a group of 10 kohanim. Upir shechamem ubal. One of them separated from the group, and we had relations with a woman, and she doesn't know which one it was. Now, all 10 were kohanim. Okay. However, there's a special stringency by kahuna. You got to be able to point to your father and say, "That's my father." So havlad shtuki. Now, mashtuki. The regular shtuki is like this: you have 5 sons, and then there's another son who claims to be an heir, and because of whatever circumstances, we say, "No, you're a shtuki," which means we're mashasik him. Be quiet. You have no share. So, are you talking about that a real shtuki? So, pshita. In this case, where one of these people are going to claim, that means this coin who's separated from the group had relations with a woman, and then the woman had a child. And now there's a debate, and she has other children, right? And now there's a debate among the heirs in the estate, and they're going to chase that kid away because they don't know for sure it's the father. We don't know who the father is. The case here, when we said shtuki v'kosher, kosher means he's a kosher Yisrael, he's a kosher Jew.
Right.
We will give him chubah v'kiddushin. We just won't call him a kohen. This week's parsha.
But if all the possibilities are Kohanim, you said the beginning, the 10 guys.
Right.
So we know one of them.
Yeah, but there's this.
But yeah, specific. So that's
because of this pasuk.
It doesn't matter.
V'haisalo ulazaro achra. Mi shazar miyuchas achra. We don't know who the specific.
Right.
That's why I said there's a specific maila by kahuna, not by regular Jews. If there were 10 kosher Jews, one separated, and there would be no shaila that the child is Jewish.
Right. Okay.
But by Kohen, it's not so, because he has to be able to point out, etc. Okay. Okay, we'll stop here. Johnny, tomorrow it'll always be about this time, 8:30, 9 o'clock. Yesterday I did it 9 o'clock, which was, I forgot, what is that, 1 o'clock?
Yesterday was
What
later.
time is it now in LA?
1:23, 1:30.
Right. So it's usually my daf will be, if you want to join us live, after dinner, like maybe 12:30, 1:45, 1 o'clock, something like that.
Okay.
Okay, Johnny,
Okay,
have a great
Enjoy.
night. Enjoy. Thank you.